What's up, Men's Physique fans, and welcome back to another video. We are just a few weeks into what's supposed to be the slow season of bodybuilding, but with all of the recent news in the Men's Physique division and bodybuilding in general, it's hard to keep up. We finally heard from Tyler Manion regarding the Olympia placings. We already have 16 qualified Olympians for 2025, and Sadik finds a new coach, not to mention Chris Bumstead switches, but to the wrong division. Guys, it's safe to say we have a lot to catch up on, so let's sit back, relax, and enjoy this video.
No, they want to take it off from me, so I give what it takes. Whole life been a miracle, seen everything but a cape. Why would I stop now? Found everything on a journey, but another way. Look.
After a disappointing season in 2024, Sadik confirms in a recent YouTube video that he has left his previous coach, Cass Guidry, and has found another coach who will be guiding him through the offseason and his next stage appearance.
Around the same time, I started consulting with different coaches, guys I know in the industry, guys that work with some of my friends, consulted with 3 or 4 coaches. Right now, I'm working with a coach. I won't mention names, it's pretty premature in our relationship.
After the Tampa Pro, 90% of Sadik's comments on his social media platforms were simply pointing the finger at his coach on why he wasn't nailing his look. And though I'm sure that relationship was strong, I can't imagine that many comments didn't have him wondering if there was some validity to it. And as someone who has recently left their long-term coach and will be seeking a new guided eye, I know the feeling of making a switch that you believe is simply just best for your career, no matter how much you have done up until that point. And I hope Sadik finds what he is missing, that missing ingredient to cook up something that is truly special. The only question is, who is Sadik's new coach? And will he be competing in Classic Physique or Men's Physique? What do you guys think he should do? After the Olympia, there was a lot of talk about the top placings and whether or not they got it right. Some had Ali Bilal beating Ryan Terry. Some thought Aaron could have even been higher, beating Ali Bilal. And then others thought that Emmanuel could have been in front of Aaron. Guys, it's safe to say there was a lot of conversations about the placings, but we finally have it all cleared up from the head judge himself in Tyler Manion.
In first, we had Ryan, our returning champ. And in second, we had Ali. I think for Ryan, he did a great job of coming back. Obviously, he's always in great condition. Ryan's strength is his overall balance. And obviously, he has a great taper with a great midsection. And then when you go to the back, he has an amazing back that improves so much. So from the front, we see the balance with the shoulders and the arms. The chest is full, but obviously doesn't look like a bodybuilder's. He has a great V-taper, all coming into a nice midsection with very developed and conditioned abs. And then again, you go to the lower body, he has great lower body development, so he looks very balanced standing there. From the back, he's improved his back. Obviously, it was amazing last year. I think it was just as good, if not a little bit better this year. Now, conditioning-wise, Ryan was very conditioned, but for me, he was just, in the morning, a touch on the flat side. I think, even though that was the case, all of his strengths really were shown here, and it was enough for him to take the title.
Okay, so that's exactly what I was thinking as I was watching the show from my seats in finals. Ryan was the most conditioned guy I think I've ever seen in my life in person. Like, there was so much just detail and just like thin skin. It looked almost uncomfortable to be in his body, but he definitely sacrificed that general pop that he had last year compared to this year. Now, don't get me wrong, he looked great, and I think he had a decent balance between the two, but I think that he can even be better than where he was by simply maximizing his fullness. He will always be the most conditioned guy on stage, even with Ali Bilal's crazy detail through his midsection. So I do think if he can play that fuller game, it's going to actually pay dividends for him in future years.
In second, we had Ali. I think Ali definitely improved from the Pittsburgh. He improved the thickness to his chest. He can still use just a touch more to that upper chest, but the thickness improved. And his front pose is very strong because he probably has the best core in Men's Physique right now. The abs are very 3D. The obliques are very conditioned. Everything is very, very separated in his abdominal section. He also worked on bringing up his legs more. I think he showed good balance between the upper and the lower body standing here in this front pose. The main thing for me, for Ali in the front pose, in the morning specifically, was he was crunched down too far on the abs and he wasn't making sure that he was opening his lats all the way here. If you go and see a video or look at the pictures of Ali from the finals, you will see how much better his front pose looked when he was posing it correctly.
Now, I can definitely attest to the fact that Ali looked even better at finals. And if he were to actually bring what he brought at finals to prejudging, I wouldn't be surprised if this went a different way. I know a lot of times, and even on the scorecards, the judges thought that this was a completely like blowout because every judge had Ryan winning. But I don't think it was as much of a distance between the two as a lot of people are saying, or at least initially thought, because when I'm seeing these guys in person on stage, especially at finals, I think that it was just a marginal differences. I think Ali Bilal, he hands down had the most impressive season in 2024. Not only did he win the Pittsburgh Pro, the New York Pro, but he brought an even more improved package to what's been the Olympia. And guys, like, that's just consistent progression every single show, which is extremely impressive. And keep in mind, he is at his weight cap. Like, he can't continue to grow, so he has to continue to fine tune. And I think what he has been able to do with his new coach, George Farah, is extremely impressive. Again, I think he just needs to continue to add some depth to his back, width to his back, but really everything else is just there. I mean, he adds that, he's going to be wider from the front as well. He's going to be really, really hard to beat. And I'll be honest with you guys, I truly see him winning the Olympia. I know it's so far out to say that, but with his track record and his consistency in improving, I see it.
In third place, we had Aaron. So for me, I feel like Aaron was very flat. He was very flat through the front. His chest, actually, for me, his chest looked flat. The amount of detail and separation in his midsection was flat. The abs weren't really popping, especially when, you compare him to the rest of the top six. Obviously, his back is very, very strong, even with him still being a little bit on the flat side. That is basically better than everybody else's up there other than Ryan's. So for me, I think the back kind of carried him forward a little bit.
So when I look at Aaron and I compare him to Ali Bilal and I compare him to Ryan Terry, and I don't compare Aaron to Aaron, I don't think Aaron was necessarily flat, at least compared to the other guys. I think he actually brought a pretty solid amount of fullness. You can clearly see the difference in terms of mass that he's put on from this year compared to last year. Now, the biggest thing that I think Aaron needed to focus on and improve on was obviously matching the detail, or at least somewhat closing the gap between the conditioning and detail that the top two brought. I mean, that's the biggest thing that separates, and it's not like he wasn't detailed or conditioned. I just think that in order to stand next to those guys who really just have a massive wow factor through their conditioning, it's just, you need to not look like it's a knockout punch next to them. I think that's the biggest thing, but when I'm looking at Aaron's physique, I just don't necessarily see the flatness. Now, maybe he was flatter compared to what he was last year, maybe, but I don't know. When you compare like the chest, for example, like Tyler said, Aaron has a fuller chest than Ryan, and he has a fuller chest than Ali. And again, Ali Bilal needs to continue to improve his chest, and it's a tissue thing, maybe not a fullness thing, but Ryan was flatter at this show and wasn't as maxed out as he typically is. So I don't know. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I definitely see the conditioning aspect. So I was definitely a little surprised about him saying that he doesn't have a better back than Ryan. I mean, I think he's wider than Ryan. I think he has more erectors and depth. He doesn't have as much detail. And again, I think Ryan was still a little flatter, so maybe he's thinking of like Ryan from last year because his back last year was nuts. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think Aaron obviously is being compared more against himself. And I do think that, he could have been giving Ali Bilal a run for his money. But I think generally right now the judges have it right. Ryan in first, Ali in second, and Aaron in third.
In fourth, we had Emmanuel. Obviously, it was close between Aaron and Emmanuel. Emmanuel came out, best his abs have ever looked, best his conditioning has ever been, the most detail and depth that we've seen in his back, especially throughout the center of his back. That's definitely improved. The number one thing Emmanuel can work on is definitely bringing up the legs more to exhibit the overall balance that we see in the guys that placed ahead of him, including Aaron as well. Aaron's worked on bringing those legs up so his legs look more balanced with his upper body in the front pose. But when we brought these guys back out, at the end, I think Emmanuel's posing conditioning suffered a little bit. He started fading a little bit, looking a little bit softer. He also was having trouble opening up his back all the way on every single pose.
I think a lot of people have counted out Emmanuel. I know his career has somewhat been inconsistent, but if it's crazy to think that inconsistent is still like top 2, top 3 at most shows. I know he didn't nail it at the Arnold, but there was also circumstances that a lot of you guys don't know about on why he didn't nail that. But regardless, this was the best version of Emmanuel Hunter I've ever seen. Detailed, full, and just had a lot more emphasis to his overall look, just pop in general. He looks absolutely insane. I think he's extremely slept on. If he gets more consistent with the packages that he brings, he's going to be one of those guys who wins Arnold Classics. He's going to be one of those guys who wins damn near every show that he does, and he's really going to be one of those guys to look out for at the Olympia. Many people have his back, right? He just needs to fine tune, bring the detail in. If I'm not mistaken, he still has a few more pounds to do that in his weight cap. I think the biggest thing that I got from this video is they're truly looking for balance. And that's not just balance from front to back, but from top to bottom. They even said it in the champions press conference the day after. Ryan won primarily due to balance, and that lower body had a massive reasoning for that. His legs actually filled out his board shorts. So if you're watching this and you're a men's physique competitor and you are one of those guys with the skinnier legs, you better get to work. Again, they're looking at these things, they're noticing these things, and they're rewarding these things. And again, if you aren't one of those guys who prioritize training your lower body, you need to, because men's physique for years never prioritized their legs. Now I can guarantee Emmanuel going into the future season, he's going to make sure that he double down and put as much tissue on his legs as possible to have that balance across the board. But nonetheless, I do agree with the top 4. I think Emmanuel, out of everybody, really impressed me the most just based off of previous packages, but also Ali Bilal going from 16th place all the way up to 2nd place. And again, just kind of seemingly reinventing his entire look. Really impressed with these guys, man. These are going to be guys who are going to be the top conversation. Next year we have Ryan. Next year we have Brandon. Next year we have Chiron. Next year we have Diogo. Next year maybe Sadik, maybe Jeremy Buendia. All of these guys are coming back. Andre Ferguson. It's going to be absolutely insane, but I do think these guys are going to solidify themselves to be in that top 5, 6, no matter what happens. We are still in the 2024 calendar year. We are just 2 weeks post Olympia, and we already have 16 qualified Olympians. So I'm going to quickly go down the list, give these guys their flowers, and also give you guys a breakdown on who I believe on this early list who will be contenders if these guys were just on the Olympia list by themselves, if nobody else qualified. To start off, we have Ricardo Carochi, a guy who seemingly qualifies every single year at the very beginning of the year. Again, another Olympian veteran, so I'm excited to see if he can continue to fine tune. Didn't place the best this year at the Olympia, but always had one of those freakiest physiques. Next, we have Alex Rogers. Alex, again, to me, has been one of my favorite physiques in the early 2025 qualification year. He has just improved dramatically from 2023 up to 2024, and then again, seemingly going to do the same thing with the added time for 2025. Recently qualified at the Sasquatch Pro, and he was actually the first person to qualify for the 2024 season. Next, we have Felipe Gonzalez. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. Jimbo Lee. Jimbo actually qualified at the Legion Sports Festival, beating Ryan Clark. A really good battle, really clean look. Again, didn't place the best at this year's Olympia, but already got his qualifications, going to continue to fine tune. We have Bong Sok Choi. I think I actually nailed that one. From South Korea, we have Ben Quill. Ben recently qualified at Daytona, and again, Daytona was not as packed of a show as a lot of people have anticipated, but he then went on to place 9th at this year's Olympia, and Ben is definitely going to be one of those guys who has a lot of time to improve, because not only is he 17 pounds under his weight cap, but he is training with me. So we're going to make sure we grow. And next person on this list, we have Jeffrey Lima, Alessandro Cavanero, Ryan Terry, again, qualified for life. Ali Bilal, by simply placing 2nd, he is now qualified for the 2025 season. We have Aaron Banks, again, forever qualified by simply winning the Olympia in the past, but he placed 3rd. So even if he wasn't, he would have qualified anyway. It's the top 3 at the Olympia who qualify every single year for the next year. Now, Mehdi Kabaj, again, a guy who just qualifies early every year. He still competes throughout the year. So he's just one of those guys who's just smart and picks the shows, man. He's really good at it. He's somebody who's very consistent. He's a veteran, been to the Olympia for however many years now, and it's just been somebody who's, again, like I said, consistent. And then we have Jason Hugh. Jason Hugh won Border States this past year, a couple weeks ago actually, and he looked nuts, significantly improved from what he brought to the Olympia stage. So it's really cool to see Jason. Jason has been one of those guys where he never gets the top placings at the big shows, but when you stand next to Jason on a normal season show, I guess you could say, he just really exposes people, because at the big shows, you got a lot of people to look at, right? But at these smaller shows, and you can then stand next to Jason and then start to realize he actually exposes a lot of people, right? So he's one of those physiques who will do really well in like regular season shows. He beat Jeremy Poppin just last year. But when he gets to the bigger shows, sometimes he kind of gets lost in the mix. But Jason looks phenomenal. Now has a lot of time to continue to fine tune. And next up, we have Yemi Awuyemi. Wow. I felt uncomfortable saying his last name for some reason. But Yemi is one of the taller guys in men's physique. I believe he's like 6'6", 6'7". So shout out to the tall guys. But again, he's one of those guys who actually was natural for a very long time and then began to transition to the dark side. And that man started to absolutely just transform. He looks absolutely insane. A massive structure. He competes in like the UK side of the globe, where a lot of the shows that I don't necessarily know of, but there's usually some decent competition. I think the UK always has like the same competition every single year, like the same like top 6 to 8 guys, and they kind of go get back at it every single year. So it's kind of cool. Yemi finally gets it. I believe he actually won the Dubai Pro a couple years ago too, if I'm not mistaken. Guy has a really impressive physique, man. And with another year under his belt to continue to prioritize growth on his big ass structure, he's gonna be a problem. And last but certainly not least, we have Jovan Segaban, a guy who recently qualified in the Philippines, in his home country. And again, a guy who is just a fan favorite. He's been at the Olympia multiple times, also never got those top placings, but he's getting better and better every year. Actually, he used to be coached by Jeremy Buendia. Also, Jeremy Buendia is not on this list, so we got to put him on this list. So Jeremy Buendia is obviously qualified forever, for life, but nonetheless, Jovan is going to be a problem if he can just continue to edge in that detail. He has the size, he has the conditioning. Again, it's the detail, right? The difference between conditioning and detail, but once Jovan gets it, look out. Do you guys remember just a few months back when Chris Bumstead was practicing his men's physique posing in preparation for the Olympia? And then it got the whole world wondering, could he do it? Okay, well, maybe not the whole world, but at least I was wondering, and I was hoping and dreaming, and obviously that never came into reality, because we recently got the news that Chris Bumstead will be stepping on the open bodybuilding stage in Portugal, and it absolutely took the men's physique world by storm. And honestly, I know this isn't necessarily a men's physique topic, but let's be real, as fans of bodybuilding, this is probably the craziest news like ever. We've always wanted to see this and hear this, but Chris is just, oh my God, like it's nuts that he's going to be able to actually answer a lot of the questions that we've always wanted to see over these last 6 years. Like, what if? Chris has always been one of the bigger guys in Classic Physique, but now we get a chance to see him stand next to a lineup with just big mass monsters. But you know what's also unique about the lineup in itself? He's going to be going against number 4 in the world. And Martin Fitzwater's critique was just simply size, to grow. He's probably one of the most balanced guys in open. So he's not going to necessarily be outsizing Chris Bumstead by a wide margin. And then we have Rafael Brandao, another guy who's a top Olympian, but also a guy who's always been, told to grow into the division that he's in. Now, granted, it's bigger than Classic, but he's not necessarily going to be outsizing Chris Bumstead by a wide margin. And it's the same thing. So it's really exciting to see this. And then also we have Sean Clarita, a guy who is certainly not going to outsize Chris, literally known as the giant killer for a reason because he's so small. So this is such a unique lineup, and a lineup that actually somewhat favors Chris. If you were to ask me, I think Chris is going to play second behind Martin. Now, can you imagine the narrative if Chris actually pulls this off? Like, imagine, like, for a second, imagine what the world is going to do, what the world's going to say. That means he just beat number 4 in the world, and now, does that mean that he's put in that category of 4 or in that conversation to beat? Oh my God, I can't even put it into words, because I don't know if this is even comfortable saying this, but if he beats Martin, do you guys think that he could actually beat Derek Lunsford? Like, think about that. If he can actually beat Derek, whether it's the structure, the conditioning, the balance, yeah, I'm definitely ordering this live stream to say the least. But I don't care what nobody says. Chris Bumstead should have went to men's physique. Look at this photo, guys. Look at this. He fits the division. But okay, let's push this photo aside. But really, look at this photo. The photo of Chris from the Olympia to now Chris now. Like, with the added weight he has and just naturally filling out his frame, instead of having to suck down to get all the way to 242 for Classic, instead he's pushing up to 250. This is what 250 looks like on Chris. Beautiful. Look at the chest. Look how full he is. Look at the legs. This is going to be an exciting show. And as a bodybuilding fan, not just a men's physique fan, it's safe to say that everybody is going to be tuning in for this one. Now that my prep is over, I'm opening up my online coaching spot. So if you or somebody you know are looking for a coach, whether it's to step on stage for the first time, looking to get nationally qualified, or simply shutting it down and focusing on growing and putting on muscle for the 2025 season, I am now taking on 5 new clients. Again, it does not matter which division, it does not matter what your goals are, as long as you're willing to work hard and you're looking for somebody who's making sure that your values communication, timely responses, and again, somebody who is simply going to make sure that they take the time to learn your body and maximize your physique. Again, all you got to do is click the link below and I will get back to you shortly. Again, guys, thank you for supporting. This has been one crazy year and we are just getting started. With that being said, guys, now that we are all caught up on the men's physique division, do not forget to like, subscribe, share this. We are growing. Let's keep this momentum up, even in the off season, baby. I'll see you guys in the next one.